I want to tell you a story about the little girl ghost that was down in my basement. So, growing up, my mom would always come in our room, even when we didn't live in this house that I was living in at the time. She would come in our room and say, "Hey, did you say my name?" And I'm like, "No." She said, "Oh, well, I heard someone yell mom." And then she would go in my sister's room, ask the same thing, and she would say no. And we kind of just chalked it up to like maybe she's just hearing mom because we say mom a lot. Who knows? So then we move into this house, and the basement was kind of creepy. Nothing too crazy, but it was definitely a creepy little basement. And I had to leave my bike in that basement, and I would get it out of the basement door every day. So when I would leave to go on my bike, I would go down through the basement, grab my bike, go out of the basement door, and then I would leave it unlocked so that way when I came back, I would go back in the basement door and then back up into the house. That's how I did it every day. The kicker here is that the basement door or the basement light, if I was coming downstairs from my house, the basement light was across the basement. So I had to like go all the way across the dark, pitch black basement to get to this light. And I always felt like something was right there hovering like on the back of my neck. And then when I brought my bike back, I had to turn off the light and then run across the basement up the stairs. It just wasn't pleasant. But I didn't know at that time that I was able to see spirits or anything like that, like I am now. But I would always see this little girl. But this little girl was in like a white dress, and she looked like my sister. And I was like, why? I wonder why there's a little spirit that looks like my sister here. And she would always be sitting on the stairs. Like I would come in the basement and I would look across and there would be a little girl sitting on the stairs. But I thought it was in my imagination. And then I would walk up, and sometimes I felt like I was walking right by her. Other times it would feel like she would disappear as I got closer. There was also an old lady there. I don't know much about that at this point. But fast forward, this happened literally every single day of my life when I lived there. I rode my bike every day. That was my way to get around town. And I was probably around 13, 14 at this time. So I was, fast forward a little bit, I was at my house and I was by myself. I was talking to one of my friends on the phone and talking about going up to their house. And as I was talking to them, I heard all these voices, and these voices were like coming from everywhere, and I couldn't tell where. I was like, it has to be kids outside. It sounded like a little kid. And I looked outside, there was no one outside, and I was like, I'm looking out my back window, front window, side window, and I'm not seeing anybody. But I also couldn't pinpoint where these voices were coming from. It was super weird. But I didn't think anything of it. I truly didn't. That was only the second time in my life that I actually heard voices coming from nowhere. And I told my friend, all right, I'm going to get a shower, then I'll be on up. And I hung up the phone. This is when we had like cordless phones, and hung up the phone. I went and hopped in the shower. Now this is when things get weird. I was using the bathroom before I got in the shower actually, and all of a sudden the door handle like jiggled, and I was like, maybe it was my cat. And then I like open the door and I look out, and the cat is in the living room sleeping. I was like, yeah, he definitely jumped up and then ran in there and went to sleep. I was just playing it off. I didn't hear the voices anymore, but that happened. And then it happened again. It happened 2 times. And I walked out and the cat was laying in the exact same spot. And when I went to, the second time was when I turned the shower on, and then went and jiggled. And I was like, what in the heck? So at that point I was like, something weird's happening, but I was like, whatever. It was definitely the cat. Couldn't have been anything else. And then I got in the shower, and all of a sudden I heard this like whoosh, just ruckus everywhere in the house. And I would turn the shower off and there was nothing. It was quiet. Then as soon as I started the shower again, it would be loud and like things rustling around, things moving everywhere. And I was like, what is going on? So I got done in the shower and dried off. I was like, maybe there's a truck unloading next door or something. I don't know, who knows. And I dried off, and when I walked out of my bathroom, we had a coffee table that was on wheels, and this coffee table was all the way across the room up against my bedroom door. And there was like magazines scattered on the ground, like just some crazy stuff. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, how did this even happen? And at that point, I started to tap in, and I didn't know I was, but I started to tap in, and I could see that little girl did it. Like, she was around, but I was like, why? And I just chalked it up to she was just trying to get my attention for some reason. So as soon as that happened, though, I like grabbed my clothes and I ran to the front door to where I could see the whole house, and I got dressed while I was right there looking at the whole house, and then I dipped the fuck out of there, and I was gone. I went up my friend's house, told my mom about it, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. So then fast forward a little while later, I asked one of my friends if he wanted to go out to a restaurant with us. And he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. So my parents and and my sister, and we were all going out to a restaurant. And he came with us, but he had to put his bike in the basement. So I put my bike in, he put his, and then my bike was already in there actually because I was already home. And then I asked him if he wanted to come, and then he rode his bike up. He put his bike in, and then he came out. And then we got in the van and went out to eat, and was just kind of, you know, whatever. We went out to eat. Later that night, I was staying a night at his house, and he was like, oh, dude, he was like, I wanted to ask you. He said, I don't know how this even slipped my mind. And also, I want to say, I never told him about this little girl ever. I never told anybody about it because I just thought it was in my imagination. So he's like, dude, when I went to your house earlier, he was like, why was your sister just sitting on the basement stairs? And I was like, nah, I don't know. And then he was like, it's just weird. He was like she was in a white dress sitting on the stairs. And I was like, hold on a second. I was like, number one, my sister's not going to be sitting on those spooky ass stairs in the basement by herself. She wouldn't. She was afraid of the basement. So I was like, definitely not my sister. And I was like, what does she look like? And he was like, she like looked exactly like your sister. He said, I walked in with my bike. I laid my bike down and I said hi, and she said hi back. He said she like said hi. I was like, are you kidding me, man? Like, no way. So, and then I asked my sister, I was like, were you on the basement stairs? And she was like, what? I was like, were you on the basement stairs today? And she was like, why would I be on the basement stairs? I was like, my thought exactly. And so she wasn't on the basement stairs. So all kind of comes full circle to where my friend saw this spirit and talked to this spirit in my house, in the basement, sitting on the stairs where I imagined it sitting for years now. And for me, that was like mind-blowing because I've seen it in my imagination. I had no clue it was real. And then he says that, and I'm like, it's real. Like, there's really a ghost in my basement, in my house. And then moving forward from there was just all kinds of just random things that would happen. And I always saw the little girl sitting across the room when I was trying to go to sleep. Not like there's the little girl just sitting there, but like in my mind, in my imagination, I saw her. And then fast forward, we moved to a new house, and then my mom came in our room and said, hey, did you yell my name? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't, and neither did my sister. And again, it's this girl spirit. I can see her at this point. I had no clue I could see her, but I could see her there. She would always hang out upstairs. And my mom said that she would be laying there getting ready to go to sleep, and she said, like, plain as day, super loud in her ear, someone would say, Mom. And she would wake up and look, and no one's there. And then she would come downstairs and be like, were you just upstairs? Whatever. So I think that this spirit is following her around. The spirit's still there. I see spirit now, and I communicate with spirit, and it's still at her house. And I have not went there to communicate with it or anything. I see it there. I don't know what it is, but I kind of feel like it is one of her children that she lost when, like before I was born and stuff. And I think it was like not just a miscarriage. It was a miscarriage earlier on in her pregnancy. And I think they said it was going to be twins or something. I don't know, but I think that's who it is. I think that's who is sticking around with her. So my lesson for this, or with this video, is that I want you to understand that you are able to see spirit. You're able to communicate with spirit. And a lot of the times that looks like you're imagining spirit. It looks like you're imagining a something across the room. I mean, so many times, and I have many stories I'm going to continue to share because I want to get this awareness out there. But many times I saw that girl, and many times I've seen spirits, and then it plays out that that spirit is actually there, and I get validation some way, shape, or form. And then now being able to see spirit, I just know how I see them, and it's literally like it's in my imagination. So if you're imagining a spirit around you, don't just brush it off. Understand that you're probably really seeing something, even if it is scary. Spirit isn't as scary as they can come across sometimes, and it's not like the movies usually. So don't hesitate to communicate with them and tell them to leave you alone, and let them know, I do see you and I don't want you here anymore. Or ask them, what do you want? Why are you here? Who are you? And so on. But anyway, I just wanted to share that story and just kind of talk about everything a little bit, because I think that it is just so amazing how everything came around there, how I would see her and just think I was my imagination. Then my friend says, oh, I've seen your sister down there. So really crazy stuff. I'm going to continue to post videos like this because I love to share my stories. So I'm going to continue to share my stories. And I think that sharing story or storytelling is one of the best ways for people to learn and relate, and to understand that there's so many possibilities out there, and there's so many crazy things out there, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to acknowledge it. And there's other people out there that are experiencing things. And also it's just fun to tell ghost stories and relive those things. So anyway, I hope that you all have a great weekend coming up, and hope things are going great for you. I will be back with another story at some point. Have a good one.